Hi, I'm attorney Renee Osipov with Chelle Law, and we assist dentists with employment agreement issues. Today, I'm discussing what should an employer pay for in relation to business expenses for the dentist. So this can vary greatly. It kind of depends on the makeup of the practice. If it's a smaller practice, sometimes the employer will pay for less business expenses. A corporation, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes will pay for more. So it kind of just depends on what the makeup is. Sometimes the business expenses are standardized, so all dentists that are employed there get the same. Other times, this is something that can be negotiated. So let's kind of go over the list of the main business expenses that the employer will pay for. So I would say probably the most common one is continuing education. So every dentist needs to continue their education in order to keep up their certification and license. An employer will typically give you an annual allowance. I would say industry standards are anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000. So they will say, we'll give you $2,000 to $5,000 a year. You can use this towards your continuing your education. Sometimes this will include conferences, which would include travel expenses. Sometimes it has to be approved directly by them. But normally it's just a allowance. They give you a specified amount of money annually, and you can use that because you need it to continue your education, to keep up your licensing requirements. Also, it's also known and stated sometimes in contracts as CEs for continuing education. You also might get CE days, paid time off, to attend those conferences that allowance is providing for. Sometimes though, however, dental contracts have unpaid time off. So if you have unpaid time off, it's not likely that this is something that would be provided to you. However, if you are granted PTO time, it is likely that you would be granted specific days to attend those CEs. So CE, that's the most common one, continuing education, because everybody has to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to keep your license. So it's very important. The second one I'm going to talk about is your licensing fees with your state board. So this is very common that it is provided for or reimbursed for. So it's typically structured two different ways. So one, they might also give you a different allowance for licensing and dues, or they just say, go ahead and apply for your license, pay for it, we will reimburse you. It depends on the agreement. So you've got to read your agreement to know which way it's structured. But your licensing fees, if you're moving to a new state and you need an initial license, that would likely be covered. If you need a renewal, again, that would likely be covered, but you want to make sure in your agreement. The next one is a DEA license. So if you are prescribing controlled substances within your practice, which dentists may or may not, it depends, you will need a DEA license. Those are expensive and they actually just keep going up. So that is another expense that you would want your employer to cover. And then you would also want them to cover the renewals. And then lastly, any sort of like professional organization, because again, that's important. You can get continuing education through that. It's good for networking and keeping up your skills. So that's also something that would be covered. Another one in dental contracts would be malpractice insurance. So either the practice themselves will add you to their policy and pay for your premiums, or they will reimburse you. And then the last two are kind of unique, but I do see them on some contracts. Cell phone expenses, they may reimburse you or provide you with a cell phone for communication. And then travel, if you're going to multiple locations, they may reimburse you for mileage or even provide you with a vehicle. But that's kind of rare. It's mainly that they would just reimburse you for mileage and travel expenses. So those are the typical ones. I would actually say that dental agreements greatly vary because the practices and their makeups really vary. So you could see all of these on an agreement, you could see none of them, which I would definitely try, if I were you, to negotiate for some of them, because these are things that can really add up. So you want to advocate for yourself to get these costs or reimbursements included in your employment agreements. If you have any questions or you'd like more information, you can visit our website at Chelle Law. It's with a CHELLE law.com. Our contact information's on there as well. You can set up an appointment with us. You send us your contract, and then we can go over it with you, and we can definitely discuss what the employer should be paying for in regarding business expenses. Thanks.